guys, it's Dale from Lux BMX, back with another product video for you. Today we're going to be looking at brakes and everything that you need to know when you're selecting a new setup for your bike. So firstly, got a couple of different options when you're picking out brakes. So you need to think about whether you're going to be running a straight cable or whether you want to run a gyro setup, as well as the style of brakes that are going to be used on your bike. So we'll start from the top and work our way down. First and foremost, you're going to be picking out a lever. You need to look at a couple of things. So you need to work out whether you're going to be running a right-hand lever or left-hand lever, as well as the length of the blade on the lever. So when I say the blade, we're talking about this section of your lever here. Basically, this dictates how many fingers you can get onto it. So if, say, you're running a park setup and you just want a small lever that's going to be out of the way, so when you're doing your bar spins, tucks, anything where you're taking your hands off, you're not worrying about catching your lever, you'll go for something like, say, the Odyssey mono lever with the short option. This means that you're going to be able to get one finger on it, maybe two if you're lucky. Still going to be super effective, just keeps the lever nice and short and out of the way. Say for trail riding or just general cruising, where you're not really too worried about the lever being in the way and you just want something that's going to be nice and easy to grab, you can go for something longer. Just means you've got some more room to get your hand onto it. For younger riders, there are specific levers available, so you could look at something like the Salt Junior lever. Basically, the only difference between this and a standard lever is that the blade of the lever itself is a little bit closer to your grip, which means for those kids that have got shorter fingers, they're not having to stretch as far to get to the lever. Next, we'll look at cables. So depending on what you're doing, depends on what cable you'll be buying. If you're running a straight cable setup, it's really simple. Grab something like the Odyssey Slick or any other straight cable on the market. Don't need to worry about different lengths. It'll just be cutting your outer housing to the correct length for your frame and to give you that loop at the front in the right sizing. If you wanted to do bar spins, you'll leave it a little bit longer. If you're not worried about that, then you can cut it a little bit shorter. Alternatively, if you're going to be running a gyro setup, we need to think about what length upper cable you're going to need, as your braking system is split into the upper cable and your lower cable. So your upper cable length is going to depend on a couple of factors. What stem you're running, whether it's going to be top load or front load, as well as your bar height. Depending on this will dictate what length upper cable you need. So for my bike, for example, I run a top load stem with a 9-inch rise bar. So I use the medium length Odyssey upper cable, which comes in at 425 mil. If you're running, say, a set of 10s, you'll go for the large cable length. 11s, you'd be looking at something like, say, the Snafu Astroglide dual upper cable in like an XL length. Next, going down, we're going to be looking at detanglers. There's a couple of different options on the market. You've got something like this Odyssey GTX detangler, which is a ball bearing setup. So it's nice and smooth. At the start, they can be a little bit stiff. However, as with any bearing, the more they spin, the freer it will turn and there's not going to be any resistance. It also offers you really good longevity out of your detangler. I've had one of these for about 10 years now. I'm not going to be changing anytime soon. Alternatively, you can go for something like the Colony Rotary. This is a nylon bushing style detangler, which means that there's no ball bearings in there. It's just a piece of plastic that allows the detangler to spin nice and freely and offers you pretty good wear time. It's not unheard of to get 5 to 10 years out of a nylon bushing style detangler. You just need to look after it. When I say look after it, you're just keeping it free of any dirt and debris, and this will stop the nylon or Teflon, depending on the brand, from wearing out too quickly, and is going to offer you really good longevity as well. Traveling down, so we're going to be looking at your lower. As I said before, if you're running a straight cable, you're not going to need to worry about this. But for you gyro boys, you're going to need to start thinking about what you'd like to run. You're going to have two options when it comes to lowers. You'll have something like the standard Odyssey cables that everyone's seen before, which are a 2-into-1 setup, or you can run something like the Snafu Astroglides, which is a dual lower setup. This just comes really down to personal preference at that point. Your Snafu sort of style dual lower is going to offer you more adjustability, so you can really fine tune your brakes. In saying that, you can certainly run a 2-into-1 lower and have just as much adjustability or close to, and still get your brakes working really well. It's just a slightly simpler system, a little less fiddly to dial in. Next, got a few options when it comes to the caliper, and this is where you really are going to want to pay some attention to what you're wanting to do and the budget that you're sort of looking at spending. So for old school bikes, they're going to run a side pull setup like these Dicomps, where you have the single bolt through the middle. This is going to go through a hole in the stay of your frame. So this is the little piece that sits between either your chain stays or your seat stays. Generally with this style, it's going to be the seat stay, so it'll sit on top of the frame like that. And it operates via the side, hence side pull. Next, for a budget option, you'll go for something like these Odyssey Springfields. So they run a single spring between the two arms of the caliper. This means that they're a really, really simple set of brakes to set up. Effectively, it's just bolt them on, get your cable length dialed in, and you're good to go. There's no real adjustment needed with these. So then you get something like your Evo 2.5s, your standard 990 caliper with the springs on either side. It's going to be a little bit more fiddly to adjust. It is going to offer you a lot more fine tuning when it comes to getting your brakes dialed into how you like them to feel. The next thing to worry about, and the final piece of the puzzle when it comes to brakes, is what brake pads to run. Depending on what you're looking to get from your braking performance will depend on what brake pad you're looking for. So if you're spending a lot of time cruising and you're looking for a brake that's not going to make a heap of noise but is still going to stop you fairly well, you can go for a coloured pad, so either like these Odyssey Ghost pads in the black or the red. Either of these colours is still going to offer you fantastic stopping performance, but what it's going to do, due to the colour of the brake pad, they're a little bit harder, which means that they don't have quite the stopping power of a clear pad, which we'll touch on in a second, but they're generally going to be a quieter brake. This is due to the colorant in the rubber. What that does is it changes the properties. They make them a little bit harder, so they're a little bit longer wearing, but don't offer quite the same stopping power. Alternatively, you're going to be going for a clear pad like these Ghosts as well. What this is going to do is it's going to offer you the best possible braking performance for your setup. However, the downside to clear pads is that they're not as long lasting due to being a softer compound, and they do have a tendency to make more noise. Realistically, the noise isn't a bad thing, it's a side effect of the braking function. More friction you have, the more noise they're going to make. However, they're also going to stop better. So if you're looking for a really, really good setup for your brakes, these are going to be the go, or any clear pad for that matter. As always, if you have any questions about any of the products you've seen here or any of the products listed on the website, please feel free to get in touch with us via email at help@luxbmx.com or via our socials. Always happy to help. Cheers.